Yes, ma'am. Okay, then listen. Oi. Last time onwards, we started with that SA 520, which was analytical procedures. I think before that, we had done audit sampling. Let us do a quick recap of sampling. I think sampling we had done last time. No, wait. I'll take out that sampling sheet here. Sampling. Where are you? Yeah. Why so much portion is there for you? Sometimes you get lost in the portion only. No, you keep on wondering, bloody, so much is applicable, and you suddenly look at it and you're like, oh my god, when did that happen? Yeah. I know. It's like an ocean. You swim as much as you want, you never see the shore. Like, how do you know? Yeah, experience. Yeah. I'm also a chartered accountant. No, no, you're so rude. Yeah, you see somebody happy and you decide like that whether he's a chartered accountant or not. That is the way that they are put in life. Huh? Rude. Now listen. Huh? Aina yaar. You see anybody like smile? How can you become a chartered accountant? Yeah. Huh. Some are like, sir, we have some issues. I cannot turn on the camera. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Who is looking at you? It's okay. Listen. Now, talking about nothing but sampling, it is covered by SA 530, which was a chapter number 7. Firstly, when you talk about sampling, it is taking 100% or less than 100%. Less than 100%. Normally, I also told you, it is beneficial for small companies or large. Large, where there are many number of transactions. It is very difficult. Then for the auditor to check 100%. Therefore, the auditor will check something less, and therefore he will go for sampling. So basically, I hope, guys, it is normally done for large organizations. However, in real life, I told you it is done for every organization normally. Acha. Thereafter, when you talk about nothing but sampling, obviously you need to understand certain terms. One of such terms is population. So what do you mean by population? Problem. Other than that problem, I hope, guys, can I say it is the total set of data? Huh. Can I say it is the total or the entire set of data from which a sample is drawn? Okay. It is like taking out a sample for India is nothing but some other country's population. But then that's okay. That is how we are made also. So ultimately, when I say population, it is the entire set of data from which a sample is drawn. Does population have some characteristics? It has. How to remember? Car. Correct. Come on, one by one. C. Completeness. A. Appropriateness. R. Reliable. Can I say only if the population has these characteristics, sample will have those same characteristics? If you people appreciate, I told you sample must be representative of the population. What do you mean by representative? It must be exactly the same. No, it will not be the same, but it should be similar. Correct. Thereafter, ultimately, sampling risk. This is very important. What do you mean by sampling risk? If you remember, I given you an example of cake. Yeah. Ultimately, I hope you had a piece of cake. Hello. Now I hope you had a piece of cake. Your cake was nice, but apart from that, there was some cockroaches, etc., which came into picture. Luckily, you did not get. Even if you got, you did not realize. So ultimately, you people gave the opinion, yeah, yeah, array, the cake is nice. But eventually, I hope I realized the cake was not that nice. Okay. So it means what basically? I'm just saying, yeah. Exactly, yeah. It's not that you will get like that, yeah. You may have also. You don't realize. Acha. Now somebody when they have cake, they are going to definitely remember the example. So be careful when you eat the cake. Check the next time. Okay. There are no traces of some anything else. Okay. In that. Now listen. So ultimately, can I say you people had a piece of cake and you give an opinion? Think and answer. You will give an opinion on the piece of cake or the entire cake? Entire cake. It means that opinion is given on the sample or the population. Population. Now the problem is that you are only selecting the sample and checking. Had the other parts of the population been tested, can I say opinion could have been different? So that is basically sampling risk. It is a risk that the opinion which is based on a sample may be different had the entire population been tested. Now do you understand? Okay. Thereafter, ultimately, I told you there are two types of erroneous conclusion which the auditor can make. I hope, guys, firstly, it is in case of test of controls. What is test of controls? ICS. And second is case of test of details. If you realize test of details, FS. In case of test of controls, what will the auditor tell? He may say that they are effective, but actually they are not effective. In fact, Acha. Then in case of test of details, he may tell that misstatements do not exist. It means financial statements are free from material misstatements, but actually they exist. Acha, what about the second part? Can I say reverse? Reverse means what? In case of test of controls, auditor may say they are ineffective, but can I say actually, in fact, they are effective? Correct. What about this test of details? Auditor may say that material misstatement exists, but in fact, in actually, they do not. Now, do you understand? Acha, can you tell me auditor is more concerned about the left hand side or the right hand side? The left hand side, correct. It is because when something is correct, bad, you have to tell no, it is bad. But here, though, when something is bad, auditor is telling it is good. So that is a problem. Thereafter, if you remember, I told you about non-sampling risk. Non-sampling risk is the risk of giving a wrong opinion due to sampling or not due to sampling. Not due to sampling. Give me a few examples. Inappropriate audit procedure. No, that is auditor's fault. Misinterpreting the audit evidence. It is his judgment. His judgment went wrong. So eventually, I hope arise any reason other than sampling that you may go wrong is non-sampling risk. All cool? All cool. Thereafter, if you remember, we had done approaches to sampling, very simple. Basically, two approaches, statistical, non-statistical. Non-statistical is basically judgmental. The auditor basically uses his judgment and experience to select the samples. On the other hand, when you talk about statistical, here the auditor makes use of statistical techniques like random number tables, probability theory, etc. Obviously, out of statistical and non-statistical, which is better? Statistical, correct, because I hope realize it has a objective and a scientific way of collecting samples, whereas in non-statistical there is no scientific way of collecting samples. In fact, there he can have his own bias also, that he will only select the transactions which are of a higher value, not select the transactions which are of a lower value. All cool? All cool. Whatever be the approach, by the way, whether it is statistical or whether it is non-statistical, see, whatever the approach, sample must be representative of the population. What do you mean by representative? Correct. I hope realize it should be similar, although it may not be exactly the same. All cool? Okay. Thereafter, we had tolerance level. If you remember, as far as tolerance level was concerned, these are the levels which are set up by the auditor. First is tolerable misstatement. Second is tolerable rate of deviation. Misstatement, obviously, auditor will set up that is the amount of misstatement which he can tolerate. If you remember, I had given you example of 5 lakhs. Say auditor can tolerate a misstatement of nothing but rupees 5 lakhs. Then obviously he will get actual misstatements. Supposing I tell you that actual is 7 lakhs. Use common sense. How much could he tolerate? 5. How much is actual? 7. So can I say tolerance level has become less? Actual has become more. So obviously auditor will think, Are Baba, I'll have to check more, no? So can I say tolerance has become lower? So you remember the song? Lower the tolerance, more the sample size, more the tolerance, lower the sample size. Rude people, you don't remember such a falto tone. It was nice, yeah. Acha, what about tolerable rate of deviation? Can I say again it is a rate of deviation? From achieving the objective, you are deviating. Okay. Then ultimately, what is deviating here? ICS. Say auditor has set up a tolerance level of 10%. But in reality, say ICS is deviating 20%. So think and answer. Can I say tolerance has become less? Can I say it is not checking 20%? So can I say obviously that ICS is inefficient? So can I say obviously you should check more? So again, same, no. Lower the tolerance, more the sample size, more the tolerance, lower the sample size. So what is the relationship between tolerance and sample size? Correct. Inverse. Correct. Thereafter, we have the, oh my God, this is a dancing question. I hope I sample design, sample size, sample selection. Can I say sample design should be such that ultimately whenever the auditor is collecting samples, they should have the characteristics of the population. Acha, thereafter sample size. Acha, it should be too less, too more, or it should be sufficient enough. It should be sufficient enough so that you can reduce sampling risk. Acha. Lastly, selection of items. Acha, auditor should be biased or every item should be given an opportunity of getting selected? Every item should have the opportunity of getting selected. All cool? Okay. Thereafter, this question again, 5 marker. Factors to be considered to decide the extent of checking. Basically, how many factors are there? 5. Can I say first is size of the organization? Can I say larger the organization, more the size? Can I say more the sample size? Okay. Next is set of ICS. Acha, supposing lower the efficiency of the ICS, more the sample size. Correct. Reliability of the books of accounts and records. Can I say lesser reliable the BOAs and records? More should be the sample size because you'll have to check more because more misstatements may come. Acha, tolerable level. This though you know, low. And lastly, degree of desired confidence. You are more confident about the company, then ultimately sample size will be lesser. But if you are lesser confident about the company, the management, then more the sample size and vice versa. All cool? All cool. Thereafter, last two things which we have, evaluation of nothing but the result of sampling. Now, uh, yeah, biscuit, no? You remember that biscuit? Yeah, there was a key for this, yeah, biscuit. What, yeah? See, if you have not written, you write down. See, this is B. Where did B go, yeah, in the first place? Bowas only, no? B, I, S, C, and T. This is how we write biscuits. Yeah, that's a fancy key. Write down the ones you have not written. How come, yeah? All cool? Okay, come on. Next, what we have is evaluation of the result of sampling. This is also manageable. The auditor basically should check whether the sampling has provided a reasonable basis about the conclusion about the population. Because auditor is going to check the sample, but he is not going to give the opinion on the sample. He is giving the opinion on the population. So ultimately, he has to check whether that opinion seems to be reasonable or not. If it does not seem to be reasonable, then he should tailor. What is tailor? Modify, change, NTE of AP. And obviously, then he should check less or he should check more. He should check more. So he should extend his checking and then he should give an opinion and then check whether it is reasonable or not. All cool? And the last thing that we have was this part, sampling techniques. As far as the sampling techniques were concerned, if you remember, 5 were there. Firstly, simple random. I told you on a random basis, the auditor will select the samples. I hope right here there is no biasness at all. Basically, it is like selecting samples or transactions from an entire drum. So the drum is nothing but the total population. You select the transactions from that. Thereafter, stratified sampling. Here, the auditor will divide the population into different stratas, in other words, groups. Thereafter, each group, each strata is treated as a population. And from each population, then a sample is basically selected. And once you people get the sample from there, you people check. And thereafter, you give an opinion, not on the sample, but on the population. Here, there is a bit of a problem that you can be biased because you may basically select the strata which is of a higher amount. So ultimately, a bit of biasness may come into picture, which will never come in simple random. Next is systematic or interval sampling. If you remember, I told you how to get this interval sampling correct. It is the population number divided by your sample size. If you remember, I told you my population was 100, sample size is 50. So my interval number was 2. So every second transaction becomes my sample. One more thing, when the auditor wants to use this particular technique, he should ensure that the transactions are structured in such a way that he does not get similar transaction as sample. It should not be that every second transaction that you are getting should be sales only or say purchase only, because he wants to check both of them. So ultimately in that scenario, the transaction should be structured in such a way that you get different transactions. Thereafter, block sampling. If you remember block, he will make for similar transactions. Thereafter, ultimately, I give you example of debtors. Say debtors, 3 blocks are there. Block 1, block 2, block 3. Now, he only selects a one block, that last wala block, as nothing but I hope is a sample. The first two are not selected. Now, what is the difference between stratified and block? In stratified, every group, every strata is a population. And you are selecting samples from all of them. Whereas here in block, you're not doing that. You are only selecting a particular block. You're not selecting everything out of those blocks. So ultimately, that is one thing. One more thing, block is only for similar items, whereas stratified is not for similar items. It is for all the items, different. And lastly, haphazard. What is haphazard here? Do as you like. I hope there is no structured technique at all. I hope he may select nothing but on one side, he may select first and the last. On the next page, he may select everything in between. So ultimately, I hope is there any particular way? No. Since there is no particular way, it is known as haphazard. All cool? Acha. At the end, I have written this relationship between ROMM and sample size. If you people remember, more the ROMM, more the sample size, and vice versa. So can I say this is a direct relationship? And what about audit risk? If you have more the sample size, then ultimately, obviously, the risk of giving a wrong opinion becomes lesser. So can I say there it is inverse? If you have not written, just finish it off. Either you must have written in the textbook or this. If you don't see anywhere, just write it off. That's fine. All cools? Okay. Now, coming to analytical procedures, which is covered by chapter 8. Now, as far as an analytical procedures is concerned, if you remember, last time I had given you the breakup of your audit procedures. If you remember, audit procedures, this breakup, wait, I'll show you in the beginning only. This part. You remember? Now, audit procedures, firstly, risk assessment procedures, further audit procedures. Risk assessment procedures, if you people appreciate, we have already done that. Can I say we have already done this in chapter number 4? Thereafter, ultimately, we have also done compliance procedures, test of controls in chapter number 3. Thereafter, substantive, 2 parts, test of details and analytical. Test of details, vouching and verification, I'll tell you in chapter number 9. Vouching, checking P&L, verification, checking balance sheet. Analytical procedures, this is our current chapter that we people are doing. So first thing that you should understand is analytical procedures is a part of substantive procedures. And always remember, substantive procedures are related to the financial statements, whereas compliance procedures are related to nothing but ICS. So always remember, when I talk about analytical procedures, these are a part of substantive procedures. Sometimes they are also known as substantive analytical procedures. Can I say the meaning is one and the same? It is because I hope you realize analytical procedures is a part of substantive procedures. All cool? All cool. Thereafter, if you remember, I told you that what are analytical procedures and why. I'll make you write the scope, but even before that, if you remember, I had told you that your routine checking, it will not detect all the mistakes or misstatements. Since it will not detect, you will have to perform some additional procedures. Those additional procedures are analytical procedures. Now, if you remember, I also told you it's a relationship. It is a relationship between financial and non-financial data. And thereafter, if you remember, I had given you this example: financial to financial, financial to non-financial. Acha, when you talk about financial to financial, can I say both of them will appear in the financial statements? When I say financial to non-financial, one will appear in the financial statements, other will not appear in the financial statements. If you remember, I had given you one example of financial to financial. Supposing if I tell you that in my P&L, okay, say ultimately there is sales, and if you agree, there will be selling expenses. Now, supposing if I tell you my selling expenses have doubled compared to last year, so what should happen to sales? Can I say it also should be close to double, if not double? Now, ultimately say this has not doubled. This has only increased by say 25%. So can I say definitely something is wrong? Now, if something is wrong, you will have to inquire why it happened. And that is when you people do analytical procedures. That is when you investigate and you come to know about a misstatement. So ultimately, there may be chances that in selling expenses, they have certain expenses which are not selling in nature. So they are putting some other expenses in the selling heading. Or ultimately, they are nothing but inflating that particular expense, which actually is not there. Because ultimately, they want nothing but profitability to come down, secret reserve. So ultimately, you as an auditor will have to now draw relationship and thereafter find whether ultimately it seems to be usual or unusual. If it is usual, okay. If it is unusual, then it is not proper. Supposing if I tell you if this has doubled, this also has doubled, then ultimately, do you see anything unusual? No. Then you will not raise a doubt. Then ultimately, you will be like, okay, now this is matching. Let's go ahead. Now, do you understand? Okay. This was basically, I hope, is financial to financial. Now, talking about financial to non-financial. Simple example here, you can take salary and the number of workers. I'm just repeating the example so that everything comes back and ultimately we can do this chapter efficiently. Now, when I say salary and number of workers, supposing I tell you number of workers are 100. say the average salary is 10,000 per month. So when I talk about the PNL, can I say here there will be salary? Can you tell me how much should be the salary for the year? Can I say it should be 10,000 per month into 100 into 12 months? Can I say if you do this, it should be 120 lakhs. So can I say this number? What is my expectation here? 120. But say in reality, it is 190. Wait, what was my expectation? 120. What is actual? 190. Think and answer. Is it a wide fluctuation? It is. If it is a wide fluctuation, you will have to investigate. Why did this happen? And there may be a chance that when you investigate, you find a misstatement. See, this misstatement, you know why I'm finding? Because I'm drawing relationships. Supposing if you only check salary, okay, I have salary slip, okay, it can be fake also, salary. You will never come to know the relationship. You may never come to know there is a misstatement. So routine checking does not bring out that misstatement. But when you compare with an item like number of workers, then I hope as it is not matching. This relationship that you draw is basically known as analytical procedures. Simple example, even you can say purchases and GST. Supposing if you have purchased nothing but say worth rupees say 100 lakhs, GST rate you already know 18% on all of it. So ultimately 100 lakhs into 18%, I hope price it should be 18 lakhs. I hope price SGST, CGST 9 lakhs, 9 lakhs. Now in that scenario, ultimately I hope price it should match, no? Now what if it does not match? What if ultimately that GST is not 18 lakhs? Then ultimately can I say something is wrong? Then ultimately I may come to know there is a problem. If that is not GST, these are not purchases, then there is something wrong in purchases, like that. So when you draw relationships like that, ultimately such type of procedures are known as analytical procedures. Now do you understand? Okay. So basically, when I say financial to financial, example, sales and debtors, purchases and creditors, sales and marketing expense, which are selling expense. Financial to non-financial, salary and number of workers, rent in the area used, electricity and light points. It's not point, it's points. But unfortunately, yeah. Such a good white, no, yeah. I know. Like points. Thereafter, ultimately, I hope as example, yearly salary, you do multiply by 12, you will get 120 lakhs. If it is not 120 lakhs, you will have to check why it is not 120. So in the PNL, it should be 120, but if it is 190, then you'll have to investigate. Remember, auditor will not investigate all situations. He will investigate only the situation where there is a wide fluctuation. Only if there is a wide fluctuation, he will do it. Else he will not do it. Now do you understand? Come on, write it. First, do one thing. You copy this chart again. Have you given heading analytical procedures? That is the only thing that you have given. Huh. They're like, yeah, you only told not to copy. Yeah, true. Yeah, the chapter is manageable. Yeah. And yeah, like shut up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now we are almost like we took off with audit quite a while back. I think a month back at least, if at all, somewhat. We are now almost on the verge of landing the subject. Yeah. We have already started our descent. So please hold on. The descent has already started. Only the last part of auditing is left out. Chapter 13, chapter 9, basically those are the ones which are majorly pending. Standards on auditing also to an extent we people have finished slowly and steadily, somewhat. Yeah, bank audit remains. Chapter 13, audit of different types of entities remain. That is the only big chapter which remains now. Then chapter number 9 remains. Thereafter, standards and auditing. I have, oh, big boss, big boss, big boss. Yeah, then there is one of your favorite chapters, audit in an automated environment, which is IT related. Yeah. So that you will know by heart. Once we people just look at that chapter and you look at that answer, you will be like, oh my God, this I know. Oh my God, this is IT. Oh my God, this is what I have learned all my life. You will realize it's something like that. Yeah. Come on, yeah. That chapter is not a problem for you. Yeah. You just keep on wondering, looking at their answers. What are you trying to tell to me? Kehna kya chahte ho? Always keep on wondering like that, looking at them. Dania, come on. Now see, this is the scope that we have. What are analytical procedures? Why? Timing, factors to be considered, techniques. After techniques now, you write down precautions, okay? Which I have made a arrow mark also. Unfortunately, it has gone down, but that's okay. It's gravity. So precautions to be taken while doing analytical procedures. Thereafter, extent, and lastly, results. Because. I think today is the only lecture that we have in the week, no? Apart from that, we have a lecture, no? Then I think before landing, we'll have to go around. Yeah, still quite time. You had IDT, before this. Yeah, I saw Vishnu sir. Doubt solving session was on when I actually logged in. Yeah, I know. ऋषभ उससे भी ज्यादा या या ये संडे तो हॉलीडे नो या यू हैव अगेन एग्जैक्टली सी आई नो राइट सो कूल at one point of time JKSC and Sunday holidays is like pandemic will go on the same day that it arrived. Yeah, but now luckily I hope rise it seems to be a reality. Yeah, I know. Now see that array yaar, that big boss is putting people's in waiting room here. Why do you want to go to that waiting room? There's nobody waiting for you there. Exactly. See, that is a virtual waiting room, okay? If you people feel that is like a real waiting room and ultimately you will be have some interest there, it is not like that. Not all waiting rooms are same. Exactly. So yeah, why unnecessary? Keep your video on, no yeah. Who is looking at you like that? Yeah. If you would have come in the lecture, you would have shown your face now. Or no? I'm just asking out of curiosity. I told like that. Some are like, yeah, by force we'll have to show. Ah, shut up and write. Danya, come on, write this part. So many people are entered into waiting room unnecessary. Yeah. Tanya. No problems, yeah. What is your batch completion date? Oh, August. Oh, max to max. End of August. Okay. This is what, June. Still 2 months. Still 2 months worth of portion is left. Yeah. Copy this also. Oh, DT is left. Oh my god. Yeah. Direct tax is okay. Now you know how to clear. No, call somebody at 1:30 at night. Why do you exactly? You just have to make a call. Yeah. Why do you want to learn it in the first place? Yeah. Make a call. That's it. Thanks for coming. Things like that. Oh, advanced accounts also just started. Yeah. Yeah. But then that person did not pass. Yeah. What will I do? Yeah. It was not my fault. Yeah. In fact, if she was the one who helped me, she could have helped herself also. Yeah. Yeah. I told sorry and thank you both at the end. That is what I could only do. Hey, you two people here look at me as if I am the reason that she did not clear, yeah, in the first place. Yeah. What did I do? Yeah. Look at you. You're like, she made you pass and you made her fail. Arey, she made me pass. Full stop. That's it. There's nothing more than that. Some are like, if that is the scenario, the ones who we call at 1:30 will never pick our call thinking they will fail. That is not the scenario, yeah. It's not gonna happen that way, yeah. Mad, yeah, you are. I know. Man bheja. No, it's not that I don't like taxation. I missed major part of my taxation due to internship, articleship. So due to that, I could not attend lectures. So ultimately, eventually, then I had to self-study. Now the problem is self-study, no, because you are there with yourself only. Now you know yourself exactly. Like that, even I knew myself. So how much I could have done at one point of time. So that is only what I managed at the end of the day. Yeah, but at least I was happy. At least I got 40. I know one mark here and there, yeah. Borderline, it seems, yeah. I know. Come on, yeah, done, yeah. Why, yeah? You are so relaxing and writing as if it is a Sunday for you now only, yeah. Sunday still has 6 days to go, yeah. You know, the lecture on Monday is a difficult one because you're just out of that holiday thing. So you're just not out of that holiday thing for at least 2, 3 days. And suddenly then there is a holiday again. So you're never in the mood of a lecture. That's your biggest problem now. Wait, I'll tell sir, wait. To take away that Sunday thing, wait. Oh, oh, some of you had lectures on Sunday. Oh, oh. Only thing I can do is all for you. That's it. What else? Yeah, it's okay. Dania, come on now. After we have already marked that from the textbook. Huh? If you check, we have already done that the last time. I know, Ray. Okay, now listen. When you people talk about analytical procedure, the next thing that we have to learn is when to do it. What are the timings? First, we already did. Second is timing of analytical procedure. Analytical procedure are carried out at three stages. Which three stages? These three stages. First, the planning stage. Second, the testing stage. Third, the conclusion stage. Repeating, planning stage, testing stage, conclusion stage. Planning is basically nothing but the initial stage. Now, why do I do analytical procedures? Can I say basically I do analytical procedures in order to get information so that I come to know whether it is actually a misstatement or not? So basically, can I say planning stage, I will do analytical procedures to determine how much will be the risk of material misstatement. For a simple example, ultimately, I hope as if some things don't match. Can I say, obviously, I will decide, oh my God, ROMM is high. If ROMM is high, can I say my procedures should be more? So ultimately, why do I do analytical procedures at the planning stage? In order to determine how much should be the audit procedures which I should perform, whether they should be less or whether they should be more. That is why it is planning stage. You have to plan how much should be your audit procedures, whether it should be more or whether it should be less. Next, testing stage. Testing stage is basically the performing stage, meaning when you people are doing analytical procedures, can I say why do you do it? To obtain audit evidence. Correct. Ultimately, when you obtain that audit evidence, then you investigate further, and can I say later on you make a conclusion whether ultimately it was a misstatement or not. So when you are doing analytical procedures as the testing stage, auditing stage, performing stage, why do you do it? To obtain audit evidence. And lastly, conclusion, which is the completion stage. Why do you do there? Very simple. In order to form an opinion whether financial statements are actually showing a true and fair view or not. So basically, when I say analytical procedures are done, they are basically carried out at three stages. One, the planning stage. Second, the testing stage. Third, the conclusion stage. By the way, planning stage, one more example if you want, inquiry. For a simple example, I can nothing but inquire with the management. Management, batao, how is your ICS? And they can tell about their ICS. What if I tell you they tell the ICS is okay, it is weak? Then can I say, obviously, I know my procedure should be more. So that becomes your planning stage. Secondly, when you are performing, hello. So when you are performing, obviously, you will do nothing but analysis between financial and non-financial, financial to financial. Acha, like I hope I sales and selling expenses. So ultimately, you may come to know whether it is actually a misstatement or not. Can I say that will happen only at the completion stage when you investigate whether it is actually a misstatement or it is okay. All cool? Come on, write it. Timing of AP 3, PTC, if you can remember it like that. Yes, Kavya, don't worry, do it. Oh, Mukhilan, what's up? You're not coming that much to Mumbai nowadays, yeah, Mukhilan? Why, yeah? Initially, though, you were so much on Mumbai that hardly we could see anything but Mukhilan. I know. No, yeah, it's not raining, etc. It's quite sunny. Oh, Kavya has information, huh? Danya. Acha, by the way, this they have normally asked in the exam as 2 marks, correct, incorrect question. Analytical procedures are carried out at the planning and the conclusion stage. False. They are carried out at the planning, testing, and conclusion phases. All cool? All cool. Come to the textbook. See, this is your timing. So cute. Analytical procedures can be applied at planning, testing, and completion stages. You can say phases also. Planning phase, they have just given example, trend analysis of the past profits. You remember trend analysis? Something was going up, suddenly it came down. Thereafter, I hope realize testing phase, basically comparing salary with the employees, which I was giving you example of financial to non-financial and all. And completion phase, ratio analysis towards the end of the year also. That they have given examples of it. What here I have written is the reason for it. Why do you do it at these three stages? And here what they have are examples of it. Come on here, all cools? All cools. Come on, let's go ahead. Now, in the scope, I hope realize we have finished the first two. Next, factors to be considered for doing analytical procedures. See, when you have to do analytical procedures, there are certain factors which should be present. Only then you can do analytical procedures. Else you can't do. Now, what are those factors? I'll tell you. See, these are those factors. One by one. Firstly, the availability of data. What do you mean by data? Information. You will have to check whether that information is present or not. Can I say only if that information is present? Only then I can do the analytical procedures. No. If that information is only not there, can I do any procedure? No. So the first thing the auditor will have to check whether the information is available or not. Secondly, disaggregation of data. What do you mean by disaggregation of data? Division of data. For a simple example, whether that information has been properly divided or not. When I say divided, in other words, properly classified. Ultimately, I hope is whether it is classified into proper heads of expense, proper heads of income. Then ultimately, I hope is if this is your salary, what are the number of employees? That information also I should have in the non-financial data. So whether that data which is available, whether it is desegregated or not. What do you mean by desegregated? Divided. Third, predictability. Now, this is important. What do you mean by predictability? Hear carefully. When the auditor is doing analytical procedure, he can do analytical procedure only of those items which he can predict. He cannot do analytical procedures of those items which he can't predict. I'll give you an example. Listen carefully. Say for a simple example, on past trend analysis, we people know that sales is normally increasing by 10% on a year-on-year basis. Okay. Now you understand year on year now. Every year it is increasing by 10% on an average. Okay. It may be nothing but more than 10, less than 10 in certain situations, but on an average 10%. Okay. Now say last year my sales were 100 lakhs. Then can you tell me in the current year, what do you predict should be my sales? Correct. Can I say it should be 110 lakhs? Now I hope this does not require rocket science. It requires common sense. So I'm telling it to you because it is a 10% thing. Correct. So ultimately, can I say it is 100 lakhs plus 10%? Come on, yeah. Wait, did you predict this? Yes. So can I say this is predictability? Now what will I do? This is my expectation. Now I will compare this with actual, no? And then I will come to know whether it is okay or there is a wide fluctuation. And if it is a wide fluctuation, I will investigate further, no? You are understanding what is happening? But wait, could you predict it? Yes. Similarly, Are Baba, you are predicting it here also, no? 100 workers, 10,000 per month, 12 months in a year, then my prediction is it should be 120 lakhs. That is what you predict basically. Then obviously you check the actual and then see whether it is a fluctuating number or not. Wait, now if I tell you like this, last year, cash balance was 40 lakhs. Current year, can you tell me how much should be cash balance? Correct. You can't predict. Exactly. Because I hope realize it is not applicable to something like cash. Because I hope realize cash has no relationship with anybody. You cannot draw a relationship that if my sales have increased by this much, cash will increase by that much. You cannot predict every item. Only the items which you can draw relationships with it, you can predict. Now do you understand? So basically the auditor has to check whether that particular information you can predict or not. Next, nature of assertion. Now, the problem is this assertion is conclusions drawn. But the problem is this is what we have to learn in great detail in chapter 9. But still, I will explain you in brief. Huh? I will not explain in great detail because in great detail, I will do in chapter 9. Now, these are the assertions, which are the conclusions to be made by the auditor about P&L and about balance sheet. Now, what about P&L? Very simple. Whether the transaction which is recorded in the P&L has occurred in the relevant period or not. Whether the transaction which should be recorded is recorded, it should not be omitted, completeness. Whether the transaction recorded is accurate or not. Whether the transaction is recorded in the correct accounting period or not, it should not be in some other period. So properly the financial position should be cut off. Then whether the transaction has been properly classified or not under the proper head. On the other hand, balance sheet, whether the valuation of the assets and liabilities have been done properly or not. Whether the assets and liabilities are in existence or not. They should not be there only in the balance sheet. Acha, rights and obligation. Whether the asset is a right of the entity. Right means title, ownership. Whether the entity owns that asset or not. And what do you mean by obligation? Obligation is a liability. So remember, right is an asset, obligation is a liability. So whether I say rights and obligation or whether I say assets and liability, the meaning is one and the same. So what the auditor has to check, very simple, whether the asset is a right or not. Right means what? They should be in the ownership of the company. How do you check ownership? You remember Caro? For immovable property, you'll have to check the title deeds, whether the title deeds are there or not. Same here happens. And obligation, whether the liability is incurred for business or not. Next, completeness means all the assets and liabilities should be recorded. They should not be omitted. And lastly, presentation and disclosure. They should be properly presented and disclosed as per FRF. For a simple example, whatever disclosures are to be made have been properly made or not. All cool? Okay. In detail, I will explain you when I do chapter 9. Just in brief, I'm telling what the points are. Now, what do I mean by this point? Nature of assertion. Hear carefully. Huh? Nature of assertion means your analytical procedure is not undertaken to satisfy every assertion. You cannot check every assertion by doing analytical procedure. Just to give you a simple example, say valuation. For a simple example, if I tell you, say my fixed asset is 100 lakhs, my rate of depreciation say is 15%. Can you tell me how much should be my WDV? Can I say it should be 85 lakhs? Come on here. Can I say 15 lakhs depre? Do you agree? Okay. Now, can I say, obviously this too I can predict, no? That, okay, if my opening WDV is 100, depreciation rate is 15. So closing should be 85. Can I predict that? Yes. And then what will I do? I will actually check in the fixed asset. What is the closing WDV? And then I will check whether it is 85 or not. If it is not, then why it is not? Is there certain additions which are made during the year or some sales of some assets during the year? What is it? Then I will have to check. Agreed? Okay. Similarly, think and tell me P&L. Okay. Now, if I tell you that ultimately sales, just like last year, this predicament, which you did here, trend analysis. If I tell you 10%, so can I say current year it should be 110? Wait, can you predict that? I did. It should be 110. So can I say, obviously, then I will check whether it is proper or not. Okay. Now think and answer. This fixed asset, does it belong to the company that you will come to know by doing analytical procedures? Then what will you do? Can I say for that you'll have to inspect the title deeds? Will it come by any relationship? No. So see, to check the rights and obligations, analytical procedure is not applicable. To check the valuation, it may be applicable. To check the accuracy, it may be applicable. But ultimately, I hope you realize it does not apply to all assertions. Because to check the rights, you don't have to do analytical procedure. In fact, you have to inspect the documents. Their relationships don't work. Now, do you understand? So basically, when I say nature of assertion, it means auditor should consider whether that particular assertion you can do analytical procedure or not. If you can't, then you don't have to apply analytical procedure. Then you just have to do inspection, checking, etc. All cool? All cool. And lastly, inherent risk. Now, what do you mean by inherent risk? Obviously, the auditor, whenever he is doing an analytical procedure, he always has in head that something can go wrong. You always have nothing but that doubt in the head, and thereafter you do analytical procedure. I am not telling it will go wrong, but you always have a question in head that it may go wrong. So that risk you always keep in mind, and then you have to do analytical procedures. All cool? So how many are there? Come on, tell me first. Availability of data. It means the auditor will check whether the information is actually there or not. Second, disaggregation of data, whether the information has been properly divided or not. Third, predictability, whether you can predict, whether you can estimate that information or not. I hope as if you can't estimate, you don't do analytical procedures. Next, nature of the assertion. Auditor will check whether that assertion is actually to be calculated or checked by that analytical procedure or not. Is it applicable to all assertions? No, it is applicable only to few, not applicable to all. You don't have to remember it is applicable to what and applicable to what not. You don't have to remember this assertions for that. This I told you why, so that I tell you that it is applicable to what and not applicable to what. Acha. And lastly, inherent risk. Auditor should always keep in mind what can go wrong while he is doing analytical procedures. All cool? All cool. Acha. Now, this in the examination is really important. Comes in the examination for 5 marks. It is that scoring, not difficult at all. Okay, now obviously since it is important, I'll give you a key. See, it's a bit of a nonsensical key, but that is what you expect also. No, you know, there is something like panda. Huh? Panda, cute pandas, big ones, I mean, they are always lazing around like that. So there is a female pandy. Sorry, panda pandy, uncle auntie. It is nice, yeah. It's not that bad, yeah. Panda pandy. You don't know panda. Don't look at me. It is not that bad, yeah. In the exams, you'll remember it like this only for 5 marks, yeah. Why are you like this, yeah? Hana, yeah, exactly. Panda pandy, uncle auntie, like that. See, Pandi, panda pandy. All cool? Come on, write it. Actually, I can make it panda also, but then for that I'll have to increase the statement. We can always write like this. No, there is a way also. Let me tell you. Inherent risk of audit. And thereafter you take it as A. Then you can make it panda. See? But I tell I because that is the risk which you have to remember. Inherent. If you forget inherent, you will not get marks. Hence I told pandy. हाँ मतलब then your wish. Panda pandy. It's nice, yeah. Pandas are so cute. क्या अच्छा था. नाटक तो करी मत तू. It's not that bad, yeah. You don't write it, yeah. You just write the answer. Don't write my pandy key. No, yeah, it's okay, yeah. Yeah. Pandy was name of a certain person also. Oh, in Tamil there is a game also known as Pandy. So cool. That's so cool. हाँ तू रहने दे अभी समझ गया मैं. Oh, such a cute female version I gave. Oh, Pandy. It's like Pandu we had no. Andu, Pandu, don't do. Pandu, Pandi. I know. Dania, they're like relax, yeah. We are also writing like a panda, chilling and relaxing and writing. Hmm. How was your Sunday, huh? Ah, holiday. Ah. After what did you do? Yeah, relaxing all the while. Yeah. Was there any iota of a study also that you did in between, or you're like, oh, thanks for coming? You're like, thanks for coming. Enough. Enough is enough. We have got enough from Monday to Saturday. So I'm like, what do you mean by studies? Oh, shameless. At least 1.5, 2 hours, so you should take out. No, yeah. At least do some practical subject, if not theory. Arey, what match you are talking about? Horrible it is. Mukilan has gone there only. Entire Mukilan has gone there. Huh. Oh, today you have test. Yeah, I hate test. Oh my God, Panda is the name of your father. Oh my God. Then in brackets you write down with respect. Pandy with respect. That is so cool. See, and you were telling that my Pandy is not nice. Huh? Rude peoples. Rude. Yeah. Danya, you ever thought your father would be a part of auditing? Yeah. Huh? Imagine he is there in the key chart of everybody. Huh? Suddenly it has become a like a family subject. Like there are family shows, no? Danya, come on, go to the key chart. Update the key chart first. Yeah, do it fast. Meenakshi, oh yeah, your surname is Panda. I just took one bloody Panda Pandy thing and suddenly it has become here. Like the batch is only Panda. Some father's name are Panda, some names are only Panda, some surname is Panda. Hey, assertions you really don't have to take down. Trust me, I'm gonna do that in chapter 9. But still, if you just for reference you want, I mean, just see, don't copy. It's not required, really. Yeah, obviously now you'll take a screenshot and later on, obviously it will get deleted, so it's fine. But apart from that, trust me, it's not worth taking down. Okay. Yeah, go to the keychart and copy. Finish it, Panda. Pandy. Panda Pandy. Come on, yeah, Dania. क्या दोषी? हाँ, हीरो बन के बैठा है क्या रे? हाँ, हाँ, haircut and all, huh? Lockdown seems to have lifted from your head at least, huh? ठीक है, ठीक है. Come on, yeah, shall we go ahead? Okay, comes. Blessed Dania. Okay, listen. Now, can I say we have done what are analytical procedures and why? Timing of analytical procedures, factors to be considered for doing analytical procedures. By the way, timing, there was a way to remember a PTC, planning, timing, and array, testing and conclusion. Okay, just for reference, PTC is okay. Even if you don't make a key out of that is fine. But the way to remember is PTC. Thereafter, factors we already saw. Factors we can say Pandy. Acha, now we come to techniques. For techniques, no, first you come to the meaning of it. Acha, by the way, wait. Factors you mark here, no, in the textbook. Yeah, we can make CPT also. Exactly. CPT is fine. I gave CPT. Yeah, in my time, I get CPT. Timing, CPT. Yeah, you are, yeah. I know, yeah. Are Mark and read also, no? What you are sitting? Huh? So, like, what? Yeah. I should tell sir, yeah, Sundays, holidays are very dangerous here. Students come back on a Monday as if thinking it's an extension of a Sunday. Yeah. You did in the morning lecture also like that only. It's 6:30 to get up on a Monday would have been so difficult, no? After a Sunday, yeah. Getting up is a task. Preparing for inter CA seems to be simple. Done, yeah. Oh, Dita, definitely. एक भी बार पढ़ा तुमने? हाँ, पढ़ा तूने एक भी बार? खिला दबा देना चाहिए तेरा, सच में। हाँ, बाद में। एग्जाम के बाद। जो आप दे वो, whatever you give. चल आजा, next one. Listen, oi. After that, now what we have are techniques for analytical procedures. This is again one of the very important questions that we have on analytical procedures. Even before I tell you the techniques, come to the definition because three techniques are there only. See, have a look. Now, since routine checkings cannot be dependent upon to disclose all the mistakes or manipulation that may exist in accounts, certain other procedures have to be applied, like trend and ratio analysis, in addition to reasonable tests. It means three techniques, so they have given there only. Which three techniques? Trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonable test. So can I say this three, so we already know? Agreed. In totality, there are four. Out of that, three are here. The last one is structural modeling. Which modeling? Structural modeling. Don't worry, I'll explain. It is just a fancy name. There's nothing great about it. We'll see later. First, let us understand this three. First is trend analysis. Now, as the name suggests, trend analysis. Can I say there may be a trend based on the past records? By the way, can I say trend can be formed in 1 year or minimum two? Minimum two. So can I say it should be 2 or more years? So can I say when a trend is followed in 2 or more years, auditor will check whether in the current year that same trend has been followed or not. If that trend breaks and breaks unusually, then obviously can I say something is wrong? Can I say auditor will have to investigate? Then can I say he will come to know about a misstatement? Okay, that is known as analytical procedure through trend analysis. Second, ratio analysis. Hey, this also we know, yeah. In your FM, there is ratio analysis. Hello. Now, I hope, guys, when you say ratio analysis, there are two types of ratios analysis. Inter-firm, intra-firm. What do you mean by inter-firm? The company with its competitors outside. Okay. Supposing, say, MRF tires. Then they may compare the ratios with, say, CAT tires. So when MRF and CAT you compare, it is known as inter-firm. What is intra? Same company, different years. For a simple example, MRF only, but 2021, 2020, like that. So ultimately, when you compare the ratios on a year-on-year basis, that is intra. So can I say auditor will also compare? And if he gets any wide fluctuation, he will have to investigate why did it happen. Simple example, if you remember, last year GP ratio was 25. Current year it has come down to 5. Oops. Use common sense. Can I say it is such a steep decrease? Then ultimately it is usual or unusual? Unusual. Then you will have to check why did it happen. See, I am not telling it is a misstatement always. It hints that it is a misstatement. Obviously, 25 can become 5 due to something like pandemic. I hope realize then in such a situation, I hope it is justifiable. But obviously, you will have to investigate why did it happen if there is an unusual fluctuation. Now, do you understand? Okay. Next, reasonable test. Now, what is reasonable test? Very simple. This is normally applied for P&L items. Just two examples I'll give you. One, salary and number of workers, whether that salary seems reasonable or not. Acha, one more example, take rent. For a simple example, they have one premises, okay, which they have on rent for number of years, and say the rent is 1 lakh per month. So what should be the yearly rent, Baba? 12 lakhs. So can I say in the P&L, what should be there? 12 lakhs. But in the P&L, it is 25 lakhs. Think and answer. Does it seem reasonable? No. So can I say this is not reasonable? Then why it may have happened? There is a chance they have taken some other premises on rent, but they have not informed the auditor. So ultimately, can I say definitely there is unusual fluctuation? I will have to check further. This is known as reasonable test. You see a certain item, it does not seem to be reasonable, then ultimately you have to check further. Now do you understand? Okay. Similarly, interest. Say for a simple example, they have made fixed deposit of 50 lakhs and say that they have made at nothing but say 6% rate of interest. So 50 lakhs into 6%, can I say 3 lakh rupees? So ultimately, can I say that 3 lakh rupees should be the interest income? But ultimately that interest income is not 3 lakhs. That interest income is somewhere around 9 lakhs. Now, does it seem reasonable? No. So there is a chance they have not given me other fixed deposit details. There is a chance that other interest income details they have not given to me. Now, do you understand? So basically, when I talk about reasonable test, they are basically applied to nothing but P&L. So how many up till now? 3. Come on. 1, trend analysis. 2nd, ratio analysis. 3rd, reasonable test. 4th, structural modeling. This you don't have to learn in detail, but I'll give you a simple example. You know, in FM, there is a chapter cost of capital, COC. I hope realize KP, KD, KE, KR, KO. Yeah, exactly. Now, in that, there is a CAPM approach in KE, capital asset pricing model, where KE is equal to IRF, risk-free interest rate, plus RM minus IRF into beta. Now, can you tell me what is beta? Correct. Beta is a measure of systematic risk. It is nothing but, I hope realize, the amount of risk, systematic risk. Matlab, I hope realize it actually tells you the amount of fluctuation that a share will do if a market will fluctuate. Supposing if I tell you that beta is 1, it means if the market, say Sensex or Nifty, say the market goes up by 5%, then that share also will go up by 5%. That is the meaning of beta is equal to 1. It is equally risky as the market. Now do you understand? Sensitivity of nothing but the stock to the market. Okay. Now, basically, how do you calculate beta? Do you know? No. You know why? Because it is not covered at intermediate portion, but actually it is calculated. It is calculated as a regression coefficient. It comes by regression. It is a sensitivity. Okay. Now, when I say it comes as a regression coefficient, you don't have to learn. I just want to tell you with respect to here what it will happen. Supposing say last year, the beta was 1. Okay. Now in the current year, the beta has become 2. Beta bada ho gaya. Huh? Use common sense. Why suddenly beta became 2? Can I say there is something unusual? Risk has doubled. Sensitivity has doubled. So can I say you will have to check why? See, there may be various reasons for that. Talking in FM language only, there is a high chance that company has taken more debt. Since they have taken more debt, more the risk. More the risk, more the financial obligation of interest. And therefore, ultimately, the beta has doubled. Agreed? So ultimately, I will have to check why did it happen. And then I will have to check that regression coefficient. Such type of checking when you do, that is known as structural modeling. Checking, but basically nothing but the regression coefficients. All cool? So how many are there? 4. Come on, tell me. 1. Correct. 1 is trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonable test, structural modeling. Trend analysis, what happens, Baba? Come on, tell me fast. Trend analysis, ultimately you will have to compare the trends of at least 2 or more years with the current year what has happened. Two or more, remember this. You know why I'm specifying 2 or more? It was asked in the exam as correct incorrect for 2 marks. Trend can be basically created for 1 or more years. False. 2 or more years. You get 2 marks for that. Imagine, it is that simple. If questions like that come in the exam, now you should not directly answer. You continue your trend of dancing. Exactly. Huh. Now listen, what was I saying? Yeah, trend analysis. Secondly, ratio. Can I say ratio analysis is basically done in order to have the fluctuations? Obviously, ratio analysis can be done of anything. Na? You have learned in FM. There are balance sheet ratios, there are P&L ratios, there are mixed ratios. So ultimately, there balance sheet P&L, both of them come. Next is reasonable test. Reasonable test is basically applied to P&L. Obviously, when I say P&L, it is financial to non-financial also. Basically, when I say P&L, obviously I have to check reasonableness, no? So I'm checking reasonableness of what? Basically, rent and area used. Area used is not written in the P&L, but rent is there in the P&L, no? So I will have to check whether that rent according to the area used is reasonable or not. That interest according to the FD made is reasonable or not. Now do you understand? Okay. And lastly, structural modeling. It is basically nothing but doing regression coefficient, finding whether ultimately it is reasonable or not. All cool? So how many techniques? 4. Come. One of the very important ones that we have. See, trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonable test, and structural modeling. Structural modeling is a statistical mode. How do you remember? SS. Statistical. Okay, that is how you write it. And obviously, it is again from financial and or non-financial data of prior periods to predict current account balance. Example, linear regression. That's it. By the way, I told you about ratios. You can do inter and intra, both. Come on, mark it carefully and read it carefully. I hope the chapter is manageable. Huh? Very. कब तक चलेगा ऐसे? नाम देना बाकी है. राह देख रहा हूँ मैं. Come on, Dania. See, this is important. Huh? This is 2 or more prior periods. Only then ultimately I hope your trend analysis will happen. As far as ratio is concerned, I told you, it is for analyzing asset, liability, revenue, expense, everything. So basically here it is for P&L and balance sheet both. Now ratios are compared over time to the separate entities within the group or with the ratios of other companies in the same industry. So basically it is intra and inter from comparisons. Thereafter, reasonable test, I hope, is unlike trend analysis and analytical procedures, they do not rely on events of prior periods, but only upon non-financial data for the audit period under consideration. In other words, current year only. Okay. Now, example, occupancy rates to the estimated rental income, or interest rates to estimate interest income or expense. These tests are generally more applicable to income statement accounts, basically P&L. All cool? Okay. Thereafter, structural modeling, I told you statistical model for financial and non-financial data, basically of prior period accounting years to predict current account balances. Question, 2 marks, correct, incorrect. I am making. Think and answer. Out of these 4 techniques, reasonable test considers only information of the current accounting period. True, correct. If you people appreciate all the other 3, which other 3? Trend analysis, ratio analysis, and structural, they consider prior period data. But I hope is reasonable test is alone, which only considers current information. Now do you understand? So basically this is only for the current year's info. Other all the 3, they have past info. Yeah, this can be expected to come in examination for correct, incorrect, 2 marks. So exception is reasonable test. हाँ ऋषभ कर सकता है. Danya. Okay, come on. Next part that we have after we have finished techniques are precautions to be taken while doing analytical procedures. Again, it is simple. Yeah, it is not difficult. Let us finish the chapter, then we'll take the break now. Just last 2-3 things are left. Let us finish it. Now, when you talk about nothing but precautions, by the way, this is already done. Have you written this in your books? You write it like this. Write it first. Scrap sale is basically, say there is something like normal loss which comes now out of the processes when there is a manufacturing industry. What if ultimately you people have normal loss, which is 5% of the input? So that 5% obviously is scrap, so you will sell that, no? So supposing if I tell you that ultimately the scrap sale, which is there, should be 5% of the normal, which is there, whatever is there. But say it is 50% of it. It means how can it be 50% of it? Because it is like then you are selling nothing but your normal finished goods, which are good goods also as scrap. So ultimately that is not reasonable. So that is reasonable test. That scrap sale seems reasonable or not. Because then in the P&L, there will be basically one by sales, then there will be by sale of scrap. This is what I'm talking about. Now, ultimately, if your sales are 10 lakhs, this cannot be 8 lakhs. Then your scrap sale is 80% of the total sales. This does not seem reasonable. I hope, if it is something like 80,000 is okay. 8% can be acceptable. Because ultimately, normal loss is say 5%. Then ultimately, 3% abnormal loss also okay. Then eventually that 8% is fine. But 80%? Now do you understand? You can take anything as such. I've just taken scrap sale here. I gave you examples of rent also. That is also fine. Interest income. That is also fine. Come on, you're all cool? Okay, come on. Next, what we have are precautions to be taken. Now, what precautions to be taken when you are doing analytical procedures? Listen, firstly, you have to check the suitability of the information. Now, suitability basically is very similar to predictability, because that very item, that information, whether you can predict or not, only then that item is suitable for analytical procedures. Repeating, whether that item, whether you can predict or not, only then that item is suitable for analytical procedures. Simple example, can I predict sales? I can. I hope as on trend analysis, I can predict the sales. Okay, on selling expenses also, I can predict the sales. If selling expenses are double, sales also should normally be double. Acha, cash. You can't see. So ultimately, cash is not suitable for analytical procedure, but sales is suitable for analytical procedure. So auditor will have to first check whether that particular item on which you are going to do analytical procedure, whether that item is suitable or not. Secondly, whether that information is reliable or not. Now I hope realize this reliability of data goes far back when we had done chapter number 2. In fact, 3, audit evidence and documentation. Try to remember. Audit evidence is of 2 types. Hello. Either it is based on its nature or it is based on the source. If it is nature, you remember oral, then documentary, and then visual. If you remember, source, only 2 were there, internal and external. Do you remember we had done something like this in the past? Now, ultimately, if you also remember, I told you, reliability of your audit evidence does not only depend on the nature. It also depends upon the source. If you remember, there were 5 statements. External evidence is more reliable than internal evidence. Internal evidence is reliable provided ICS is efficient. Documentary evidence is more reliable than oral evidence. Audit evidence obtained by the auditor himself is more reliable than obtained from the management. And lastly, original is more reliable than duplicate. You remember? Then use common sense. Can I say reliability does not only depend on the nature, it also depends on the source. Now, can I say auditor, he wants to do analytical procedure, but he will do analytical procedure of information, no? Whether that information is reliable or not, that is what he has to check. Because if that information is not reliable, then his analytical procedure also will not be helpful. And therefore, the auditor has to check whether the reliability of data is more or less. If it is more, he will go and do analytical. If it is less, he may not do analytical. Now, do you understand? Okay, next. Auditor should always have an expectation development. In other words, he should be the one to make an estimate. Simple example. My opening WDV, I already gave you, revolves around the same part only. My opening WDV 100. I know that the rate of depreciation 15. Come on, tell me your expected closing WDV. 85. So can I say, obviously, this is my expectation development. Only if I have that expectation development, only then I will be able to do analytical procedure. If I'm not able to estimate this, then I will not be able to do, no? I can able to do only if I'm able to estimate what it should be. Now, do you understand? Okay. And lastly, difference between expectation and actuals. Now, when you talk about difference between expectation and actuals, use common sense. Can I say, if there is a wide fluctuation, then he will investigate further. If there is not a wide fluctuation, will he investigate further? No. So auditor should always keep in mind that whether that difference is usual or it is unusual. By the way, who will decide that? It depends upon one thing, APJ, our greatest president. Can I say it is auditor's professional judgment? It depends upon nothing but APJ, whether ultimately that difference is very high or it is not too high. All cool? So how many are there? 4. Come on. Firstly, the suitability of the data. Check whether that particular information on which you are trying to apply analytical procedure, whether that is suitable or not. It is not suitable for every information, suitable for certain information. Simple example, not suitable for cash, suitable for sales. Secondly, check the reliability of the data, whether the data is reliable or not. I hope as if it is more reliable, he may do. If it is not that reliable, he may not do. Acha, reliability depends only on the nature? No. It also depends upon the source. And if you remember, I told you 5 statements. All cool? Okay. Then ultimately, auditor should be able to do expectation development. He should be able to estimate what it should be. Only if he is able to do that, only then he can do analytical procedures. If he is not able to estimate, then analytical procedures are of no use. And lastly, he must be able to determine the difference between expectation and actuals, whether that is usual or it is unusual. Obviously, that depends upon auditor's professional judgment that what is that difference. All cool? Come on, take it down. Then we go to the textbook. But yeah, after this, I think last 2 things are left. See, extent of reliance and results. That's it. Then it's done. Result also is very simple. Result is like sampling only that we had done the last time, which you don't remember, obviously, because you're LIFO. Yeah, it's a small chapter. It's like sampling only. Banks also is almost similar. Maybe 15, 20 minutes more than these, but almost like a similar sized chapter. If you remember, I told you also, all the chapters are comparatively small chapters. Other than that company audit, chapter 4 is big, chapter 13 is big. And chapter number 3 has various standards on it. That's why it looks big. I don't know how many lectures, but wait, I know how many hours I can calculate. We have, I'll tell you how many is remaining. Wait, estimate I'll give you. I can do analytical procedures. I can predict. Maybe 6 to 7 lectures at a max. Yeah, 7 you can say. Yeah, definitely. Come on, yeah, Dania. Shall we go ahead? Finish it? Acha, come to this textbook first. First, take this down. See, this is your suitability, reliability of the data. Thereafter, develop an expectation of the recorded amounts. What do you think should be the estimated amount? Thereafter, this is the 4th point. This is estimated point only, but you don't have to basically learn that. You just have to basically come till here and that's it. You don't have to go ahead. That is just for knowledge, not for writing in exam. And thereafter, ultimately, 4th point is done, which is there. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4. मतलब काफी हो गया यार. It seems that way, but if you just look in the hindsight, we have covered so much in auditing. We've actually done so much. Where we started with that chapter number 1 introduction, and where today, I mean, I'm telling you, almost landing process has started. Just the landing checklist is getting started. Yeah, yeah, Somu, if you like, definitely, why not? Can do. If you want, I'll make you write only later on everybody, but you can do so now. Oh, 16th May it started. Oh. Come on, you're all done. Come on. Next part that we have is extent of reliance on nothing but analytical procedures. How much can you rely on the analytical procedures that you have done? Whether you can rely more or whether you can rely less depends on certain factors. What factors? These factors. Firstly, you will have to check the source of the information from which you are getting. Now, if you people remember, source is only two, now internal and external. Can I say if you have got the information more from external source, then your analytical procedures are more reliable compared to getting nothing but analytical procedures from internal sources. So how much will be the reliability of your analytical procedures depends on whether I have got more from external or whether I have got more from internal. All cool? Okay. Thereafter, comparability of the data means whatever I am comparing of the current year with the past years, whether past year's data also has been correctly written or not. Because if past year's data is not correctly written, then my comparability with the current year will go wrong. No? So auditor will have to check whether those data, whether those are reliable or not. Normally, if they are audited financial statements, those are reliable. It means these past years, if they are audited, then it is reliable. But if they are unaudited and you are only auditing in the current year, then it becomes lesser reliable. Then your analytical procedures is not that reliable compared to audited. Okay. The nature and the relevance of the info. Now, when I say nature, come on here. Just a while back, I told you on the basis of nature 3, no? I hope it is oral, documentary, visual. Can I say if you have more of documentary evidence, then ultimately your external will be more reliable, no? Your analytical procedure. But if you have more of oral evidence, that is not going to become more reliable. Then your analytical procedures are lesser reliable. All cool? And lastly, controls over the information. This is important. Now, see whether you get information from internal, external, oral, documentary, visual, whatever you may get, can I say there will be ICS? Supposing you are getting from external source, some external source. Can I say that external source also system should be there? And that system should be reliable. Only then external info becomes reliable, no? Because if there is no ICS at that external source of information, can I say then that external source also is not that reliable? So ultimately, auditor has to check the controls over the information that he is getting, whether those controls are effective or not. Because if the controls are effective, then we say that ultimately reliance on or analytical procedures is more. If the controls are ineffective, the reliance on analytical procedures are less. Now do you understand? So how many are there? 4. Firstly, source. See, two things are very simple to remember. I'll tell you how. You have to remember this only, nature and source. So this is one point. This is second point. See, this is your source. This is your nature. 2 points are that only. Then what do? You compare, no? In analytical procedures, you are comparing, no? So ultimately check the comparability. But can I say, obviously, the information depends on ICS. So lastly, it is controls. That is how we remember. So nature, source, that, ICS, and comparability. All cool? Come on, take it down. Finish this. It's so simple, yeah. 4 marks, they ask you this. Hello, these are all 4 marker questions. Yeah. They ask any one particular question out of the chapter. Normally, the chapter comes in the examination for 4 to 6 marks. It is not that a high number of marks questions that come from this, but that 4 to 6 marks question which comes is very simple. Means there is not losing any marks there, is what I'm trying to. Some people may be like, if ask 7-8 questions from this, no? Yeah, mad. You wish it will happen, but that is only a wish. Yeah, everybody has started making nothing but keys. Huh? Now I gave this. Now there are many points now. NC cube, NCC camp, all type of keys people have started making of every question which is there. Very fancy. You make yourself personal keys. Yeah, and whatever, however you can remember. I don't mind. Yeah, but I gave you a key that was nice. Yeah, Pandy, Panda, Pandy. Good day, you know. It's not that bad. Yeah, Pandy. That is why I'm telling refer the key chart. See that key chart now is homework. Huh? You refer the key chart and come the next time. That key chart now, people will only remember keys bloody. You are not there to remember the keys. Hello, that key chart is for remembering answer and the question. Hello, you dash. You think that key chart is given for your time pass, sir. That ultimately, whenever you seem demotivated in life, ultimately you people see the key chart and suddenly there is nothing but a smile on your face. You dash. That key chart is given for your reference so that in examination you write the answer properly for that question. Huh. Exactly. Array, that key chart is something which is an important tool. Rude. Hmm. How are you like this here? Come on. Controls basically mean ICS. Source basically means internal or external. Comparability, you already know. Nature is basically, I hope realize whether you have got it orally, documentarily, or visually. तो कर क्या रही थी तू? चिल. नहीं दूंगा, नहीं दूंगा. देता हो रे, पहले मार्क कर ले, चल अभी, वरना बोलेगी मार्क भी नहीं किया है. ODV is oral, documentary, visual. What is ODV? It seems we should take one test in the class here, oral test of 2-3 chapters. Then I'll nothing but unmute that particular person. I'll ask the question and that person has to answer. That normally happens in the offline lectures. You know, in the offline lectures, the first 30 minutes that I spend is nothing but taking that oral test every day or whatever we have done up till the last lecture. It is always like that. But it's fun also. The ones who don't know, then they are treated in a separate manner by me, but that's fine. Yeah. They are like, many will live meeting. No river. Come on, you're done. Okay. Now, basically, what we have is the last part. इसको बाद में लिख, तो मैं इसे छोड़ के जाएगा ब्रेक में, बाद में लिख ले, साइड छोड़ दे. The last part that we have is the results of analytical procedures. Now, what do you mean by results of analytical procedures? Listen, supposing if I tell you like this, wait, that my expectation was 100 lakhs, but the reality is 150 lakhs. Can I say there is a difference of 50% in this? Now, obviously, the auditor will have to decide, no, that ultimately whether 50% seems to be usual or unusual. Can I say he will have some expectation in his head, expectation development, that okay, I will expect and I will estimate till 10-20%, it is okay. If it is more than 20%, it is unusual. Now in that scenario, can I say this is unusual? Now use common sense. If you see some unusual thing like this, the difference between actual and recorded, then what will you do? If you see unusual like this, what will you do as an auditor? Do you directly report, directly give an opinion? No. First you'll have to talk to the management. Management, batao, why is there such a difference? Can you explain me? Because I hope they can be justifiable. So first try to know the reasons from the management. See, even when the management used to stop you, you always used to ask to the management, na, management, batao, why are you stopping me? So ultimately there may be some justifiable reason. Like that, ask to the management, why is there unusual so much? So batao, management. Acha, can I say, when you say management, obviously if they give you proper justification, it's okay. If they don't give you proper justification, you can talk to the top level management. Can I say top level management is TCWG? In other words, if you people appreciate, you can do PAP. Hey, what is PAP? Yeah, you can perform alternate audit procedures. Why do you do PAP? Very simple, to get audit evidence. And why do you want audit evidence? So that you can give a reasonable opinion. So can I say, if there is a wide fluctuation, then auditor will have to inquire why did it happen. So first he will ask to the management, batao. If not management, TCW. Can I say he will do PAP to get more audit evidence, and then he will give an opinion. Now do you understand? Bas. See, that is only what we have. If, see, this is conditional, this is the condition. If there is a wide fluctuation or inconsistency, obviously when I say inconsistency, between what? Between what is recorded and actuals. Okay. If there is a wide fluctuation, then ultimate estimates, recorded is actuals only. Ultimately, I hope realize, then what you have to do is, first you inquire with the management. Batao. Why do you do that? Obviously to obtain audit evidence, whether it is reasonable or not. Thereafter, what you do is you perform other audit procedures. Example, talking to TCWG. All cool? Imagine this is the result of analytical procedures. If you people remember, it is similar to the result of sampling. In sampling, basically you are not talking to the management, but what you are doing is you are yourself making a conclusion whether that opinion is reasonable or not. If not, you are increasing the audit procedures. Same is happening here only. See, this is audit procedures only, no? First inquiry is audit procedure. You are trying to ask an alternate audit procedure is already PAP. All cool? All cool. Come on, finish it. This normally does not come in the examination, but if it comes, normally comes for 2 to 4 marks. 2 to 4. Whichever are like very important examination type of questions, I will tell you once ultimately we finish this. Because chapter has now obviously come to an end. So I will tell you shortly. Done. if there is a wide fluctuation, if there is a wide fluctuation or inconsistency. All cool? Copied? Okay. Come to the textbook. This is your last part. Results of AP. Rishabh. All cool? Okay. Thereafter, we have consideration specific to public sector entities that you cancel. It's not required. Thereafter, they have given you basically examples of certain analytical procedures, but that we have already taken, okay, into consideration. So these are also not required. If you still want to do it, you can read it as homework. That's fine. But ultimately, they are not that relevant from exam point of view. After that, oops. Wait, come to the beginning. Now, meaning of analytical procedures, done. Thereafter, examples, that is fine. Yeah. Timing of analytical procedures, done. Can I say 3? Acha, if you want, you can definitely make a key also. That's fine. CPT. See, basically, I say PTC because it is in line, it is in order. It is because first planning should come, then testing, and then the completion. Okay. Thereafter, ultimately, I hope as factors. I hope as here the key. Panda Pandi. So ultimately, we have Pandi there. Okay. Thereafter, techniques. If you remember, 4 techniques: trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonable test, structural modeling. Out of this, only one has only PNL and ultimately only of the current year. Reasonable test. Correct. Thereafter, precautions to be taken. Basically, I hope there's 4 things. Check the suitability, whether it is suitable for analytical procedures. Check the reliability of the data, whether you can rely on that or not. Then the expectation that you have of the recorded amounts, what you think it should be. And lastly, nothing but the difference. Thereafter, extent of reliance. I hope it basically depends on nothing but 4 things: the source of the information that you are getting, the nature of the information. So first you should remember like this only: nature and source. Thereafter, comparability and ICS. Thereafter, results. If there is a wide fluctuation between nothing but what was your expectation and the actuals, then if there is a wide fluctuation, you'll have to inquire. So inquire with the management, try to know the reasons for it. If they don't give you proper answers, you people do pop. All cool? Bus. Now, if we come here, if you have a look, can I say we have completed extent also, results also, precautions also. Can I say simple chapter? Acha, questions which are really expected from exam point of view and which have been asked before. Firstly, the meaning of it. This is important. What is the meaning of analytical procedures? Hmm. Thereafter, timing is important. Now you may say everything is important. No, I'll tell. Factors is very important for 5 marks. Hmm. Thereafter, techniques important. Hmm. Thereafter, precautions are there, but they are not that much asked in the examination. But 4 points are simple enough. Okay. Thereafter, extent of reliance on analytical procedures. Okay. Up till now, not that much asked, that much, but if they ask, 4 marks. Results of analytical procedure is not that important. Come on, you're all cool. Out of the last three, if you still ask me which is a better chance of coming now, precautions. This still has a better chance of coming compared to nothing but the last two. They have not been asked at all, in fact. It can be a one of where ultimately you may be the one where they ask you. You can hope so. Can I say with this, what we have definitely finished is nothing but chapter number 8, which is analytical procedures. All cool? All cool. Just come to the textbook. Let us just take an update of what is left here. I just want a bit of clarity there. Can I say nature, scope, and objectives of audit done? Obviously, in that one standard is left and one question is left, which I'll take up. Don't worry. Audit strategy planning done. Audit evidence documentation done. Although few standards are left though. Risk assessment entirely done. Auditor's responsibility in relation to fraud done. Sampling is automated is left. Sampling done. Analytical done. This is left. Company audit done. Auditor's report done. So basically it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 that we have, correct? And thereafter ultimately the standards etc which are left in the chapter. Apart from that, can I say everything is done? Thanks for coming. All cool? Come on, let's take a break and thereafter we'll do one standard which is related to chapter number 3 only. Once we take that standard, then we see whatever is time remaining, and according to that we'll take another question if possible. How much break here? 10 minutes is fine. There's nothing here, Rishabh. That was just for reading. 15. Why? Yeah. Okay, come on. 12-1-0 then is where we meet. Which bracket here, Sonu? You just have to do it till here. This point. That's it. This is just for reading. You mentioned in the exam till misstated. That's it. Yash, cancel. Yeah.